Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Decaturish.com District 1 DeKalb County Board of Education debate. I am your host, editor, and publisher, Dan Wisenhunt. Our candidates for the District 1 DeKalb County Board of Education seat are Andrew Ziffer. Andrew, hello.
Hi.
And
Hi, Dan.
Austin McDonald. Austin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thank you so much for having us on here. This is a great value to the community.
Well, we enjoy it. We enjoy what we do. So Austin and Andrew are running to replace Anna Hill, who opted not to seek a second term. So the way this is going to work is each of our candidates is going to get 2 minutes to open and 2 minutes to close. If you appreciate what we do, please visit supportyourlocalnews.com, become a subscriber, contribute to our election fundraiser. Every part of it helps. It helps us do the things that you like to watch and read and all of that good stuff. If you want to find all of our elections coverage, please go to DecaturishVotes.com. That's where you're going to see a story about this forum and stories about the other forums that we have done. So with that out of the way, we're going to give each candidate a chance to do an opening statement, and each candidate's going to get 2 minutes to answer each question. So we're going to start with Andrew. Andrew, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement, sir.
All right. Thanks, Dan. So first of all, I appreciate you having this. And I'm a big fan of Decaturish, just so you know.
Thank you.
And who am I? So I am my name's Andrew Ziffer, and I started out as a carpool dad when my kid was in kindergarten 13 years ago. And since then, I've been pretty much an active volunteer in DeKalb County schools. My kid went to Dunwoody Elementary School, Peachtree Middle, and then DeKalb School of the Arts. I've been elected to 2 principal advisory councils at Dunwoody Elementary School and DeKalb School of the Arts, and I was also a volunteer in the Peachtree Middle School Foundation. And along the way, I also helped co-found a cross-cluster communication network, so schools within the Dunwoody cluster could actually speak to each other. And later, DeKalb County Schools formalized the process and has a formal group now inside the DeKalb County school system. So I've seen it all. I'm in 13 years in the school district right now. My kid's a senior, about to graduate. I've seen all the triumphs. I've seen all the missteps. And as far as my professional career, I've done a lot. I've been in internet banking for 20 plus years. I have 30 years of corporate experience managing large teams in IT and real estate and multi-million-dollar budgets. And I'm ready to help govern the third largest district in our county. And most important, I know how to fix our school district's problems because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis at my day job. And so my goals are very simple. I'm going to focus on students, independent of who they are and where they live, create sound fiscal policy and accountability, operate with integrity, and most important, build bridges to make DCSD the first choice for parents to send their school-age children, and also very important, make sure our tax money is spent transparently and efficiently.
Thank you. Austin, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement, sir.
All right, great. My name is Austin McDonald. I am running for School Board District 1. That's going to be the north part of DeKalb County. I'm a former teacher. I taught in both public and private school, and I was also a certified special ed teacher on top of the health and physical education. As I was a school teacher, I was also doing contract teaching and self-advocacy for students with disabilities and teaching financial literacy, job readiness, and self-advocacy. When I was doing that, I got appointed because I was doing that, I got appointed to the State Rehabilitation Council in 2019 by the governor. And basically, we advised on policy to support, people with disabilities at the Capitol. So I have lots of experience in education. I have 10 years, and I bring a private school and a public schools perspective to District 1, which, if you know about District 1, that is that is the number one competitor of public school, is the amount of private schools around the area. So I bring a unique perspective to that. Over the next 6 years, I will have 5 kids entering the DeKalb County school system, which means over the next 20 years, I will have a student in the DeKalb County school system. So I'm taking this very personally. This is something I'm deeply invested in. I have skin in the game. And yeah, I'm looking to make schools safer. I'm looking to spend money wisely in the classroom instead of the central office. And I am also looking to, improve academic excellence and excel there. And last but not least, I want to focus on teacher retention, because let's get to the root of the problem. teachers. We got to focus on teacher retention if we want to bring the DeKalb County school system back to its former glory.
Thank you. So for those of you following along at home, thank you. We've got our group in here already, so thank you for watching. One, you can ask questions. I'll see them. If you're on Twitch anyway, I'll see them right here. If you see me holding up my finger, this is our sophisticated timekeeping system at Decaturish that we've invested a lot of money in, and that's me letting the candidates know that they have 30 seconds left to answer the question. So it's not Morse code or anything, I promise. Austin, we're going to start this question with you. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, top of the debate rather, Anna Hill is not running again. Real quick, 2 minutes, if you want to take the full 2 minutes. What's your opinion of Anna Hill and the job that she's done as a school board member?
Well, I think to start with, I think she is doing an excellent. I mean, being a public servant is hard, and I think I think she's done a good job. I think if you looked at the policies and the priorities over the last 4 years, Anna Hill has left her mark on the DeKalb County school system for the better. Between the legislative priorities from this past session to the audit meeting, now consistently meeting, and I think she's doing a great job, and I wish she would have ran again.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
No problem. Andrew, same question to you.
Well, I would say this might be one of the times I actually agree with Austin, but I would say that if Anna Hill was running again, I would not be running. So first, I want to say that she did exactly what she said she was going to do. She was going to focus on fiscal policy, accountability, and figuring out honestly where all the money's going. And she's still doing that to this day. There's now a regular rhythm in the audit committee. Finance is looked at every single meeting, and it's not an afterthought anymore. So she is doing exactly what she said she's doing. And she's doing a good job. So very simply, I'd say that's how I'd characterize it.
This is a good time to mention that nobody is going to lose points with the audience or me if they go shorter on the questions, because we do. So this is great. Short answers are fine. People like it when you respect their time. So just going to point that out. Andrew, question to you. Recently, Decaturish.com contributor Jaden Mason published a story about the retreat, and they're talking about rezoning, reimagining attendance lines in the district. Possibly getting away from the cluster model that everyone's known for a long time. What's your opinion about it? What's your opinion about DeKalb County schools looking into redistricting?
They use a different word for it. There was reimagining. Reimagining the school districts. And so, right now, DeKalb County has this cluster model where you have elementary schools that feed to a middle school that then feed to a high school. And I had to think about that a little bit, but that's a model that we have, but that's also a model not a lot of other school districts have. And so, one of the comments that really caught my attention in there is that, maybe they reimagine that redistricting, talking about where their kids go to school. I mean, honestly, a lot of people, including myself, I bought my house where I live, honestly, to go to an elementary school that right after we moved in, we were redistricted to another elementary school. We were originally supposed to go to Vanderlyn Elementary, and then we were redistricted to Dunwoody Elementary School. And my wife and I had a little bit of a, hey, is this a good idea? And we had the same thing, same thoughts go through our minds that goes through all parents' minds. Is this going to be a good thing? In fairness to the DeKalb County, we said, okay, we're going to give it a shot. We did. Dunwoody Elementary was an amazing experience for my kid, for my child. He did amazing, and I was happy we did it. So when we're, redistricting is a pretty tense conversation, and I think or believe that when it's done correctly, when done with community input, and the community is listened to, and with a real forethought to what the future looks like, neighborhoods are going to change, or school zones are going to change. But that could actually be a positive because it'll actually bring something different to the neighborhood. And we have schools that are overcrowded right now, and we need to solve the problem. That's the bottom line.
Thank you. Austin, same question. What are your opinions on the reimagining / redistricting that's being talked about in DeKalb County schools?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I wanted to say is I believe that the biggest concern we have in the redistricting, in as far as District 1, is that we need to have that new high school built over in Doraville. We've got lots of community kids going into driving all the way into Cross Keys, and that's breaking up that community. I actually looked through the slides of the retreat and noticed that, you can kind of see a direct shift from 2020 to now. And it's mostly focused on elementary schools, because we're not having overcrowding in every school in District 1. There's empty seats in Austin. There's overcrowding at Hightower, I believe. So ultimately, I'm in favor of reimagining, I guess is the term, especially if that means making our students safer, getting them out of the trailers at Dunwoody High School, allowing them to have more space in the classroom to learn. I think these are things that have to be looked at, but we also have to pay attention to the trend. And right now, District 1 is trending in the wrong direction as far as attendance. I think it's interesting that Mr. Ziffer talked about wanting community input from parents, because from what I understand by learning more about this issue, back in 2019, there was a situation where there were parent leaders that were filtering the actual needs of the community and the wants of the community. So I'm just curious on why have we went from being no transparent to transparent and wanting to listen to the community members.
Andrew, would you like to respond?
Oh, I honestly don't know what he's even talking about. So
I have to confess,
Peachtree Gateway Council. Peachtree Gateway Council.
The Peachtree Gateway Council, I would say, was one of the things that I actually have a lot of pride in. I created a cross.
There was already one, Andrew.
Communication network.
All right, well, Austin, let Andrew finish, please.
Yeah, it would be nice if you let me finish. Yes, please. Thank you. So one of the things that when I was on the Dunwoody Elementary School Principal Advisory Council, one of the things that I thought was missing was there was no cross-school communication. How do the schools talk to each other? How do the schools integrate with each other? How does Vanderlyn learn about what Dunwoody Elementary is doing inside their PTA? Or how are they doing fundraising? Or how are the schools talking about certain issues in their district? And, honestly, how do schools become better? And schools become better by talking to each other and learning about the issues. And when I was on the Principal Advisory Council, there was a lot of overcrowding going on. And so one of the big conversations was overcrowding and how do we solve the overcrowding issue? And so to me, that was just a great thing to see the community to actually talk about overcrowding and see what was going on and actually share input and data.
Okay. And then Austin, I'm going to give you a minute and then we're going to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, from what I understand of the Peachtree Gateway Council is that there was already a council that there was cross communication between schools, and that was the Chamblee Dunwoody Peachtree Council, or the Chamblee Dunwoody Parent Council, and it honestly it has slowed. It was around for 20 something years, and it just all of a sudden disappeared in 2019 during the Peachtree Gateway. I feel like there was already something there that could have been supported by you, Mr. Ziffer, to better serve the community.
Okay. Next topic. We're going to start with Austin for this one. Austin, hold on a second. My timer's being weird. What is your opinion? And y'all, these debates are occurring at an interesting time for me because I'm a DeKalb School's parent, and we have milestones testing, which is really stressful for these kids. And so starting with Austin, what is your opinion on standardized testing? And what can be done to make this a less stressful experience for students and their families? 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I think testing, unfortunately, is necessary to measure some type of quantitative progress. I think we test our kids too much. I think that doesn't allow the teachers to have the freedom to teach in the classroom and gives them more stress, which affects teacher retention. And so ultimately, and also, gateways, I think it started last week in most schools, maybe I think so. And I think if you talk to the principals and you talk to school board members, you don't really students aren't going to necessarily be held back for not doing well there if they're doing excellent everywhere else. But that is a stress that parents feel and students feel, and they're not going to be able to perform well if they have that stress. So I think having those pre-parent meetings before the milestones start, which I know Vanderlyn had some talking to parents about what to expect and how to navigate that. But ultimately, I think it's just important not to make the entire the curriculum all about the test, because at the end of the day, we've got to actually be able to communicate with one another without a multiple choice option. So so that's my answer. Thanks for that. Thanks for that question.
Andrew, same question. Standardized testing. What do you think about it? What can be done to make it less stressful?
Well, standardized testing it's a mixed bag. We know why it needs to be done. Students need to be measured. There needs to be some type of tool in place that actually measures whether children could read or do math at a certain point. It just has to be done. But there's a subset of kids or children and students in our system that this is incredibly stressful. It produces a lot of anxiety, and there's also a subset of students who just don't take tests very well. And so in my house, my son had some various testing issues along the way, and we had to have special testing done for him to see where strengths and weaknesses were. And we found out that he had some testing issues, and we had to do a 504 plan to accommodate certain things, and to just make sure he was able to take a test effectively, because certain things he did slower than other kids, and so we had to have extra time allotted. And so we have a little bit of personal experience with that. And so, the bottom line is I have a neurodiverse kid who had the same issues, and there needs to be consideration made for those kids, whether it's a 504, some type of provisions that give the kid the ability to not have stress or reduce stress when the testing is going on. So there has to be some type of consideration made for those special cases where standardized testing is not going to do well for the student.
Thank you. Andrew, we're going to start this next question with you. Do you think DeKalb School District is doing enough to support mental health among students and staff? And what would you want to see the district add in terms of support? 2 minutes.
Well, the simple answer is no. They're not doing enough to support mental health. And so, mental health for me there's many prongs to it. So first of all, with school safety, at the recent DeKalb County School Board meeting, there was a conversation about violence directed at a teacher, and a student was actually directing violence to the teacher, and school district might have not handled it correctly. But I was more thinking about, like, once that violence starts and the kid is violent in the classroom, that violence didn't start that moment in the classroom. That violence started many months or many years of a certain situation that a social worker could have contributed and made a difference for that student, and it just didn't. And so I really think, one of the foundations of school safety would be to put more counselors in schools and have kids get the support they need. A teacher told me once that actually an old principal friend of mine, a good friend of mine, said that his mother, who was a principal at an elementary school, said this: before teachers can be a teacher, sometimes they need to be a social worker, and teachers are not social workers. So if we have the proper mental health support inside the classroom, I think it would actually help the student be successful, help their success in the classroom, reduce behavior issues, and actually contribute to the student having a stronger presence in school and then a stronger start in life.
Thank you. Austin, same question to you.
Yeah, I was actually at that school board meeting live when I saw that teacher talking about that issue. And I would agree with Andrew about more school counselors. The American Counselors Association recommends a 250 student to 1 ratio for counselors. That's actually something that the state legislation has to approve, or the DeKalb County taxpayers are going to have to pay for those additional counselors. So that's something I think is important. And I know a little bit about that. My brother is a public school counselor over in Lincolnton, Georgia. And we've talked about this a good bit. I think one of the things to do first is I think the school system has to enforce and has to follow their policies and guidelines they set in the classroom for disciplinary issues. That's going to help the teachers. Having extra school counselors will also help the teachers. And at the end of the day, if we can help those teachers in the classroom teach and do their job, it's going to help the students. I agree that a lot of these, unfortunately, scary discipline issues that we see in schools, they don't start at the school. They start at the home. And I think we need to build those bridges between the school system and parents, and have a parent partnership with the school system. that's my answer. Thank you for that question.
Okay, Austin, we'll start this question with you. Currently, DeKalb Schools is developing its 5-year strategic plan. What role do you think the strategic plan should have in guiding district operations, and how will you work to see it implemented?
Yeah, so that strategic plan, you can look. It's pretty cool actually. You can look at the slide deck, and it's a very well done poll. I mean, it tells you what students care about. It tells you what parents care about, teachers care about. And one of the things that concerns me on that survey is every stakeholder is concerned about school safety. And I think that's something that we can look at the policy as a school board member, and make sure that our schools are safer, and especially for our students in their learning environment and the teachers in their teaching environment, across all kinds of safety issues through mental health, through active shooter situations. These are all things that I think, and also I think we need to be compliant with the state law when it comes to safety, and partnering with local municipality police forces, to make sure that there's no ball that gets dropped. But ultimately, our job as a school board member is to listen to our constituents, be their voice to the superintendent and the school system. And at the end of the day, it's the people's school. It's not my school. It's not your school. Yeah, it is essentially, but it's the people's school. I think that's something to keep in mind as we get elected, and as we do our job, is to make sure we are being the voice of the people of District 1, to the superintendent and to the school system. Thank you.
Andrew, same question.
So a strategic plan, first of all, is only good if it's followed. So many years ago, there was something called the CMP that was created, the Comprehensive Master Plan. That plan was created to look at facilities throughout the entire school system, give them each scores, which one, what are they deficient in, what are the capital needs for the school system, and that was done many years ago. From at least the conversations I'm having, it's followed a little bit, but not completely. But inside my business right now, I mean, everything we do, we always have a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 10-year plan of what our business growth looks like, what we're buying, what we're selling. And every year we recreate our 5-year and 10-year plan. And we're doing that every year. So we're always looking in the future. And so when you say strategic planning, I immediately go to my real estate business, where when we buy a piece of real estate, for example, an industrial property that needs we know the industrial property is going to need a new HVAC in 5 years. It's going to need a new roof in 10 years. It's going to need new windows in probably 15 years. And so we plan that expense, and then we plan that entire capital needs over the lifetime of that property. And then we put away reserves, and we plan that to make sure that property has what it needs over its lifetime. So it's essentially the same thing with the school district, that number one, you have to plan population growth. Where we're going to have more students, where we're going to have less students, and the entire planning process should be around what's happening in that school district. And it needs to be literally reinvented every 1 year, but it needs to be looked at as a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, and possibly even a 10-year plan when you're looking at 5 years to build a school.
Thank you. And actually, that's a good segue into the next topic, which we're going to start with Andrew. DeKalb Schools currently has a backlog of maintenance projects. As a board member, how will you work with the district to move these projects forward?
Well, moving facilities projects forward is basically one of the reasons I'm here. So I want to focus on one of the things I'm going to focus on is everything that happens before that teacher steps foot in the classroom, because everything before that teacher steps foot in the classroom is important, because once that teacher and student steps in the classroom, they want to have a good experience there. They want to make sure the HVAC is working, the students aren't sweating or freezing because the windows are leaking or because the HVAC is not working. They're not dodging roof leaks because the roof wasn't maintained properly and money wasn't put away to fix the roof or replace the roof in time. And so in my mind, we really need to go back to basics approach of, we need to look at a data-driven approach of looking at where the needs are in our system. We need to stop doing the Band-Aids, and we need to do the real capital improvements over time. So we need to actually plan our building maintenance there's little things that happen, like the Freon might need to be replaced in an air conditioner. But really what I want to see is I want to see when you invest in proactive maintenance, when you invest in proactive yearly maintenance of an HVAC system, or you know you're going to have to replace windows every 15 years, you could budget that, and that reduces a lot of need for the emergency. So that's the first thing. But then it really just becomes a matter of data. So when there's needs that are happening and you have a building that has a failing water heater in the cafeteria, it needs to be replaced. And there's nothing else to do other than just make sure your yearly maintenance budget for those type of items is done correctly, and we actually have people to do them, and they're not delayed further and further out.
Austin, same question.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you have to look at the root problem on that. DeKalb County is flush with cash right now. I think the SPLOS 5 isn't even 50%, spent. That'll take care of things like modernization and maintenance and those things. I think you have a situation where we can't find people to do the jobs, and that's part is there's a labor shortage out there in the trades, and there's also a lack of trust with vendors on whether or not DeKalb County is going to pay them. This is at least what I've heard from talking to school board members on some of those challenges. So I think the first thing we have to do is make sure we start building trust within those vendors. But ultimately, I think it's important that we don't veer too far into operations, because our job as a school board member is to focus on the budget, focus on policy, and focus on representing our district to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a great segue into my next question. We'll start with Austin. Austin, what do you think is Superintendent Devin Horton's biggest accomplishment, and where do you think he needs to improve?
Yeah, so I really the Ignite teacher program that he established, I think this last year, where we're focused on retention of teachers. Because the thing is, with school teachers, ideally we need them to be in the classroom for 5 years. The burnout rate's right around 3 years for new teachers. We need them to get to 5 years, because kids learn when a teacher has at least 5 years of experience, where they learn better, right? And I really think that's a excellent thing that he's focused on the teacher residency program, Ignite teacher residency program. As far as things that he can do better, I think he's a little too busy. And being busy is good, but sometimes we need to focus on those critical things like teacher retention, smart spending, safe schools, and the kids to make sure we're serving the whole district. So I think that's where I land. But ultimately, I'm very happy of the extension of the contract that Dr. Horton received. I think that created some stability within the DeKalb County school system that was much needed. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Andrew, same question to you.
So Dan, first of all, I have to say, like, one of my big conversation points I have is about corporate culture, and how corporate culture, it always starts from the top. So leadership creates the tone for the entire organization. And with Dr. Horton, I will say that as many people I have asked about feedback, everybody has given me positive feedback about Dr. Horton. So I was pleased to see that his contract was extended. His contract was just extended. I think it was within the last week. And so I was happy to see that. We've had 10 superintendents in 15 years, and the average superintendent has been here about 1.5 to 2 years. And so it's kind of disappointing to hear that. I don't think any superintendent or any leader of a billion-dollar organization could be effective in a year or 2 years. You just can't do that. And so I think one of the problems that we've had over the years is just longevity. We've had a Gwinnett County superintendent who was there, I believe, for 27 years, and the Gwinnett County school system does a pretty good job right now. And so, while we don't necessarily need a superintendent for 27 years, 4 to 6 to 8 years would be nice to have a superintendent. His communication is great. In fact, I get a communication in my email box. I think it's every other day from him. So I'm happy to see he's communicating. His feedback is great. Cross Keys is getting a modernization. Sequoia Middle School and high school, or we're going to have a Sequoia Middle School and high school in the district, and we're getting a new elementary school. So he's actually serving District 1 and the needs of District 1. And I will say he's seen in the community. I went to the DeKalb Schools Film Festival, and he was there. He was there watching all the kids get their awards. And I would say the big thing that I'm really impressed with is his Miracles framework. The Miracles framework is his evidence-based approach to making sure that his organization is effective and the school district is doing what it needs to do to be effective for students and teachers. And if there was ever a culture brought into the school system that would help, I think that's a good start. And I'm really appreciative that he brought the Miracles framework into the school system.
Thank you. And Andrew, we're going to start the next question with you. How can the board work effectively with the superintendent to accomplish its goals?
Well, we start with the foundation of why we're here. And we are here to serve students and to provide them. In my mind, we are here to provide students with a strong start to their lives. When they're young adults, DeKalb County gave them that start. And I want them to be able to have a future that's meaningful, that gives them independence, and provides a quality of life that is good for them and it's good for their family. How do you do this? Austin and I are running a election, so there are politics involved, but honestly, I want to take politics out of this and just focus on what the end result is. And the end result is educating our kids and providing them a good foundation for life. And we need to do that with transparency, shared goals, and honestly, compromise. If the board needs to understand what is happening in each district. District 1 needs to understand District 7 problems. District 3 needs to understand District 5 problems. And while Austin and I may understand District 1 problems pretty well, we may not understand District 7 or District 6 problems very well, and we need to. And I will say with the superintendent, DeKalb County Schools, we are great at firing superintendents. We should not be doing this. If a superintendent makes a mistake within reason, there should be forgiveness, there should be coaching, and we shouldn't fire them because they make one mistake. We should actually learn how to build the superintendent, give him a network of supporting peers, of professional development and supportive staff, and he needs to know the board has his back and the board is on his side to make the DeKalb County school system good and for us to accomplish our end result of giving students a strong start to their young adult lives.
Thank you. Austin, same question. How can the board work more effectively with the superintendent to accomplish its goals?
I think partnerships with other school board members is important within the whole county. I think that's going to be the key to getting things done for your district and being able to represent DeKalb County school system as a whole. I don't necessarily. I mean, it's no secret that DeKalb County's past is not doesn't look great, especially when it comes to the superintendent track record. But we've got to step away from that. We've got to look forward, and we've got to move forward with this so we can bring DeKalb County school system up par with the other Metro Atlanta school systems and compete. I want my kids that are going to be entering the DeKalb County school system. I want them to be able to compete academically, athletically, socially with the other kids throughout the Metro Atlanta area. So I think that's important, and I don't agree with giving a superintendent a free pass just because we had a bunch of them already. If they're not doing their job and they're not serving students, they don't need to be in that role. And I slightly disagree with Andrew on that. We don't just keep someone around because we're worried how it's going to look. Sometimes you have to make the tough decision for the betterment of the system and the kids and the teachers and the parents and the community and the taxpayers. So, but ultimately, I think I'm happy with Dr. Horton and what he's doing right now. I think it's our job to represent the people who elected us, not necessarily to represent the school district. That is not what we're here to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Austin, we're going to start this next. Andrew, do you want to say something?
Can I make one quick comment? Yeah.
One quick comment, 1 minute.
in the corporate world, and we're always developing professionals. We're developing people who are junior to us, who are learning how to do things bigger and better. And one thing we always have to manage is when someone does something that was not in line with what they're supposed to be doing. When you do that, you provide them coaching and counseling, and you move forward. If we were to actually fire somebody every time they made a mistake, we would be firing somebody every other week. And it's not because we're hiring poorly, it's just because that's the way things work. Any professional, from the accountant to the CEO, is going to do things the way they know how to do things. And they're not always going to align with everybody. But what we need to know is everybody needs to work together, and everybody needs to compromise, and everybody needs to go back to that foundation of why are we doing this, and then move forward from there.
Austin, I'll give you a minute to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I just disagree. I think if you you have your job to support the teachers, support the kids, support the taxpayers, and you choose not to do that job, I think that's a full stop. I mean, this isn't corporate. This is a $3 billion after CARES funding school system. This is the people's school. Thank you.
Okay. Austin, question for you. The district has seen declining enrollment since COVID and post-COVID. Why, in your opinion, has the district seen a decline in enrollment? And what would you do to convince families to attend DeKalb County schools?
Yeah, so one of my biggest concerns, especially in District 1, is student retention and teacher retention. And I think the biggest issue there is that we have options. In District 1, we lots of families make the decision that the public school system isn't a viable option. When I was a school teacher at a private school over in Peachtree Corners, 40% of the kids came out of Dunwoody. That's a big chunk if you think about all the schools surrounding the district, District 1 specifically. I think that the biggest thing I would like, I mean, this is I have a very interesting perspective on this. Private schools support and putting money into admissions and retention and recruiting of kids in the community. And I think as a public school system, we have to really look at that and compete by having someone that they need that role. They need the role to their job is to make, to sell the school. I think part of that is by being, if I'm elected as a school board representative, I will be sending all 5 of my kids to my local public school, and I think that's a good place to start. But ultimately, parents are going to do what's best for their kids, and if they don't feel like the public school is what's best for their kids, they're not going to do it. I think you also have another part of that decrease in this area is you have an aging demographic that's not moving. Therefore, families aren't moving into this area. So you kind of have a few things there. But the big thing is I want to see our public schools compete with the private schools in District 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew, same question.
Well, this is a pretty big question that we could probably talk an hour about. But we have 3 feeder clusters in our area. We have Cross Keys, Dunwoody Elementary, and Dunwoody High School, Chamblee High School, and Cross Keys High School. Dunwoody High School has lost about 1,400 students over 4 years, from 2020 to 2024. Chamblee's about even, and Cross Keys has lost about 1,300 kids over 4 years, from 2000 to 2024. So we've lost 2,800 kids in our District 1. DeKalb County has lost about 8,000 kids over the last 4 years. And so about 35% of the loss of DeKalb County students is in our district. And so we are the ones actually losing kids to private school, home schools, or just moving out of the district. I have had a really good friend tell me that he has waved the white flag on DeKalb County and moved to Gwinnett County because he just wanted to be in a different school system. And I'm really sad to hear those stories. And I will say that when you live in Dunwoody or Chamblee or Brookhaven or Doraville and you send your kid to a private school, regardless if you send your kid to a private school or not, you still want the public school in your neighborhood to be a desirable public school, because it will help community development, it will improve property values, and it will make people want to be there. You always want to have a community where there's a public school that supports the community and people want to be there. And so when you want to keep teachers inside DeKalb County schools, it's really about the culture. And my hope is the Miracles framework will create this culture of creating a place where, and this is very simple, and you just have to listen to me, where parents want to send their kids and where teachers want to work. So when teachers are applying for new jobs, DeKalb County needs to be the first place they apply their job, put their application, and it's the first place where parents want to send their students to school. That's the environment we need to
Thank
create.
you. Thank you. And actually, it's another segue into another question. Well, starting with Andrew. What are your ideas for attracting qualified teachers and staff to work in DeKalb County schools? 2 minutes.
Well, I want to create, going back to culture and the Miracles framework that Dr. Horton is working on. From leadership, we're starting a culture for teachers to want to be here. So you're starting a culture of, okay, first of all, teachers are doing this. They need to get paid and they need to make money, but they're doing this because they want to work here and they also need to be paid fairly. So we need to be competitive with Gwinnett, Fulton, Cobb, Atlanta Public Schools. We need to pay equal or better, number one, and we need to create a culture that they actually want to be in. So when they're applying to school districts, we have the reputation, the best reputation of treating teachers fairly, treating teachers with appreciation, investing in their professional development, not when they request, but just as a matter of policy, that on this type of rhythm, this teacher who has this much seniority gets professional development on XYZ. And that needs to just be part of the whole culture and the system in place. So every time a teacher comes into the DeKalb County School District, every year DeKalb County is making them a better teacher. And not only making them a better teacher, it makes them want to stay longer. And so I want to create that environment inside the DeKalb County school system.
Thank you. Austin, same question.
Yeah, so this is something near and dear to me. I left from being a teacher back in 2020, and it had a lot to do with work-life balance. I think work-life balance is the key to anyone staying in a job, and wanting to have a job. I think about the teachers that are using their own personal money to pay for materials and school supplies in their classroom. I think about the teachers that are grading papers over the weekend or after school's out. These are things that don't foster a very good work-life balance. One of the things we could do as a school district to recruit higher quality teachers with more experience is going to be we could make sure that if a teacher has 5 years, 10 years, 6 years of experience, we can make sure that when they come in, that those years are credited towards their salary. I know at the retreat there was some discussion on that, to making sure those teachers were compensated. So I think compensation is a small part of that, but we're talking class sizes are an area that we as school board members could affect, because that creates a better teaching environment. Once again, school counselors to address mental health concerns, and that's going to also address some mental health teacher concerns as well, because they need to be able to teach. I think safety is a huge part of that, making sure teachers feel safe when they come to the school, and if the school system's not enforcing the handbook and the policies, I don't think a teacher's going to feel safe and want to do the job. So thank you for that answer or question. Excuse me.
No problem. And I'm glad you brought up work-life balance, because that is a great segue into my next question. If y'all keep setting up these nice segues, I'm going to hire you both to write my next forum script. So keep it up. Austin, starting with you. Being a school board member is a very time-consuming job, with board members often meeting multiple times a month, sometimes for hours at a time. They have these day-long meetings. The pay ain't great. We all know that. That's not why you're running, but we all need to acknowledge that. So my question is, how do you plan to balance your responsibilities as a board member with your personal responsibilities? And we'll start with you, Austin.
Well, that's a great question. So, in 2020, when I left teaching, I left to be a stay-at-home dad, because my wife had a great corporate job and was making a lot more money than I was. So I came home to be a stay-at-home dad, and I did that about 3 years. And then we got to the point where financially we had to make a decision. She came home to be a stay-at-home mom, and we started our own real estate business where we rehab homes. So I'm self-employed, and what that's been able to do is give me the flexibility to be there for my kids, and that's why I'm running for school board. I'm running for school board to be there for my kids. I look at me being elected as a school board member as me serving my kids and all the kids of this district, especially into a profession and teaching that I deeply care about. So that's it. I look at it as part of my life, essentially. Obviously there will be times that it will be hard, but good work has to be done by good people.
Thank you. Andrew, same question. Work-life balance, balancing your roles as a board member with your personal responsibilities and professional responsibilities. How do you plan to do that?
So I will say this involved a lot of conversation in our house because I clearly understand the commitment. The commitment is a lot. Some weeks you have a full-time job, some weeks are a little bit light, but honestly, it consumes a lot of your time. And I would view this as a public service. This is not a job where you make money, you get paid a little bit, but what you're doing is you're putting other stuff away in your life and you're doing this. I'm at the right point in my career. I'm a partner at a real estate firm. We have 60 employees. I'm able to step in and step out as I need. My wife and I are sunsetting into retirement soon. And this is the impact I want to make in the world. And not only is it the impact I want to make in the world, I have the time to make the impact in the world because honestly, my kid's about to go to college. We're going to be empty nesters. And I have the time, I have the commitment, and honestly, I have the desire to make an impact in young adult lives. And if I could somehow change the conversation in DeKalb County and improve the lives of 100 kids who graduate from Cross Keys, I feel like I've done my job. And of course, I want to do better than just improve the lives of 100 kids from Cross Keys. I want to improve graduation rates throughout the system. And I just want to make sure that I am doing what the end goal is. And the end goal is that strong start for young adults. And I'm just at the right point in my life to do it. I have the time to do it and I want to do it. I'm here by choice. And I want to serve the school district.
Thank you. Andrew, we'll start this question with you. What are your thoughts on weapons detectors that are being installed in DeKalb high schools? Do you think they're needed, and do you think that they are effective?
Well, first of all, I'm actually sad you even have to ask that question. So
it is sad, but yeah.
So when I went to high school, we just didn't have those problems. But now, obviously, kids are bringing weapons to school. I did hear one statistic that the metal detectors in the current schools has brought down weapons in the schools by 75%. So if anything, the metal detectors are a deterrent for kids not bringing certain weapons into the school. So I do agree with that it helps prevent problems. But it's a mixed message for kids. I mean, this is not the Atlanta airport. This is a high school, a middle school. And I hear there's even conversations about putting metal detectors in elementary schools, which I would have really mixed feelings about putting a kindergartner through a metal detector. But the foundation of all of this is what I talked about before too. It's about mental health. And so if we are actually having proper mental health services in the school system, there's this whole idea of bringing a weapon to school will hopefully not happen because the kids have a healthy mind. They don't have the need to act out. And my hope would be that we're actually creating an environment where the need for metal detectors goes away. But right now, obviously, if they're still finding weapons when kids are coming to school, there still is some form of need to have them there, unfortunately.
Thank you. Austin, same question.
Yeah, so I think metal detectors may make adults feel warm and fuzzy about their child's safety, but if you're not going to put them at every egress or ingress of a school, and you're not going to get rid of the trailers at some high schools, they're not going to be really effective. And I don't know if the true statistics showing that they're the cause of why why guns aren't, people aren't finding weapons in the schools. I think maybe we're making some headway in mental health. Just maybe. I think there's lots of causes there that we can look at, to say, hey, well, this is what they're doing. I believe we need more partnerships and personnel that are trained, that are carrying a firearm. I think those not teachers. Not teachers, but security. Municipal law enforcement overlapping, county security, within the school system. I think more of a security presence, a police presence, is going to be way more beneficial, than having metal detectors. I understand that it may look good, but you all you have to do is go drive by Dunwoody High School during lunchtime, and you can see that's not truly keeping kids safe. We need to make sure we're as a school system we're focused on the policy, and we're following procedures and protocols that are honestly laid out by the state, for to keep our kids safe, especially in those extreme safety situations, that metal detectors are supposed to keep from happening. So now that's a District 1 position. I think you have to look at every district and see if it's right for them. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Austin, starting with you. You might have read or heard recently that a lack of digital records has increased the cost of the school district's eSplost audit. What would you like to see the district do going forward to rectify this problem? 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I actually was watching that meeting, that audit meeting when all that went down. There was actually some really interesting things Anna Hill laid out in that meeting. I think there was almost $60 million that are unaccounted for, that doesn't match the two systems. And part of that came out because of the documents that were accidentally disposed of. I think we've got to move towards a more digital, digital system. I think that's the easiest solution. But one thing that has to happen is when it comes to that, the SPLOS audits, for I think 4 and 5 or 5 and 6, I think we've got to complete them. We got to complete them, and we can't just stick them in a file once they're completed and collect us. We've got to figure out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again, because that money needs to be spent in the classroom, through in the maintenance areas, through modernization, to support the students, teachers, and the community, and be a good steward of taxpayers' dollars. So, thanks for that question.
Thank you. Andrew, same question to you.
This is, again, another question that I can't believe you actually have to ask, but at my company, just the way we do business every day, we are completely paperless. Everything we do, every document we have, has a location, a storage place, and it is not only do we put it away, but in 5 years we could find it. Actually, in 10 years we could find it. And so it's just a matter of just business practices. And it's very odd that the one thing DeKalb County is known for is not being financially accountable and managing money correctly, and invoices and receipts and documentation that shows how millions and millions of dollars were spent is lost and not available to audit. And from my understanding of the issue, these documents are not retrievable. They're just in the ether someplace, and we're never going to have access to them. And so we might not be able to 100% audit the past SPLOST funds. And so it's just really disappointing. And I would say, as a matter of policy, everything we do accounting wise should be stored digitally, and honestly, not only stored digitally, but actually backed up and stored off site. So if there's ever a casualty with a server at the school district, there is another server someplace else that actually has the backup. And for us, that's just, inside my business, that's just how we work. And so to me, it's a little bit of an oddity that the DeKalb County school system, which is a much bigger organization than our company, they don't work that way. So it's just a little odd to me.
Cab's an interesting place.
Yes.
It is definitely an interesting place. It keeps me busy and gainfully employed, so that's nice. We are at the end of our forum, believe it or not. So we're going to roll into closing statements. We're going to start with Andrew, and we're going to finish with Austin. So 2 minutes, Andrew.
So Dan, first of all, thank you very much for having this forum. I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you, and I appreciate all your questions. So while this is not a job interview, um, some people should look at it as a job interview, and we should look at the best candidate to put inside this position. Who is the best candidate who has the experience, who's been through the journey of what's needed in DeKalb County, who can actually measure the impact of a large organization and has done this before inside of large organizations. Uh, I started out with a duplex when I was 24 years old, and that was my first business. That was my first business transaction. And and 30 years later, I'm now a partner at a commercial real estate firm. And so I've had the journey through everything: cleaning toilets, drywall, building houses, buying commercial property, maintaining commercial property, managing large budgets. And I also had an IT career along the way that I was delivering the world's first internet banking software in the late 90s. So I've done a lot. And I think I have the experience. I know I have the experience to do the job in the school district and to make an impact for our kids. I've got 13 years in the school system as a carpool dad and as an elected PAC member at two schools. I've had a 30-year career in large organizations and real estate and facilities maintenance, and so I have the skills needed to do the job. And I want to focus on very simple things. I want to focus on sound fiscal policy and accountability, make sure our taxpayer money is used wisely, fix our school buildings. We don't need HVAC problems or roof leaks anymore. And we need to create an environment where mental health is valued for both teachers and students, and an atmosphere that is desirable for all teachers, students, and administration.
Thank you. Thank you. Austin, 2 minutes to make your closing statement.
Yeah, so I think it is absolutely a job interview, and I think Andrew may want to interview for a consulting position, instead of an elected official, because our job is to be the voice of the people, the voice of parents, the voice of taxpayers and community members, not manage facilities within the structure of the school system. I've got four kids, one on the way. All five will be going into the DeKalb County school system over the next 6 years. For the next 20 years, I will be a dad that will be care deeply about District 1 and DeKalb County schools, because I have skin in the game. My opponent does not. I also was a teacher for 10 years, public school and private school, which brings a unique perspective to District 1. We have to be able to compete in District 1 with the private schools. And as a county, we have to be able to compete with the rest of the school systems in Metro Atlanta, and hopefully the rest of the state. There was a time where the DeKalb County school system was looked at as the gem of Georgia's educational system. My grandmother, who's a retired educator, would talk about in the 80s coming up to DeKalb County for professional development. I believe that we can bring DeKalb County back, but we're going to have to believe, we're going to have to work hard, and most importantly, we're going to have to be transparent with our finances, representing the people and what they want for the people's school. We're going to make sure the schools are safe and policy is followed. We need to make sure we're keeping great teachers and making sure the kids in our community go to the schools in our community. Dan, thank you so much for having this forum and for the district to learn about me and learn about Andrew. And I hope you remember to vote. And Dan, I'm gonna let you take it on the voting dates.
Yeah. I believe the election is May 21st. Well, let me look at my notes.
May 21st, my birthday.
It is 21st. Yes, I wrote it down. I'm so smart. May 21st. April 29th is early voting. DecaturishVotes.com is where you can get all your election information. I just want to, first of all, I know you two clearly disagree on some things. I want to thank you both for being interested in public service, because the schools are the lifeblood of any community, and I think too often in DeKalb County we have forgotten that, or we don't keep that at the forefront. And in order for public schools and public education to work, we need good and talented and passionate people to step up and run for those positions that take a lot of people's time and don't pay so great. So I appreciate you both very, very much for throwing your hat in the ring and being willing to do this. So this is the Decaturish.com District 1 DeKalb County Board of Education debate. This is the last school board forum that we're doing. Tomorrow we're going to do the District 1 DeKalb County Commission Forum, and that's going to be streamed on Twitch. If you don't know what that is, ask your nephew. And on Facebook, if you don't know what that is, ask your mother-in-law, on April 25th at 7 p.m. So we hope you will join us then. With that, we will bid everyone a good night, and we will see everyone tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for doing this.